Hey everyone, welcome newcomers. I'm not really going to film my face today because I don't like my face. But I was just on a Facebook group, Wicca and Witchcraft for Beginners. And I do enjoy the group. I like giving people advice. And someone asked a very basic question I've seen so many people ask before. I wish I could remember her name, but I clicked away from the page and forgot to save her name, so I'm so sorry. She asked how to clean her stones and crystals. There are so many answers to that question, and there's so many different types of stones and crystals you could be talking about. So if you have something gentle like silicate, it could fall apart if you put it in water or try and bury it in the ground. There are sturdier ones that can be left out during the day. There are also ones that are light sensitive, and their colors can change if they are in the sun for too long. So it's important to research what kind of stone you have and what some methods might be to cleanse them, so to speak. Now, when I started answering this woman's question, I just started typing out such a long list. I felt it's easier just to show her without having to be too descriptive. Everything's circumstantial. You may not have the same setup, you may not have the same stones, or even just beliefs in what cleanses something. Let me show you what I mean. Now, if you are connected with your stones in a very metaphysical way, you can tell when it has sort of a personality in there. You could tell what it likes, where it wants to be. You can basically talk to it. It's almost like a houseplant. And they don't necessarily have to be on jewelry. You don't have to use them in spells. They can sit in a part of your home and bless your home. Very simply, just by being there, they can make a difference. And sometimes I can tell when they're getting tired of being somewhere. I just cleaned this one, so he's kind of happy, but probably a willing volunteer for a cleaning example. Anything that's pure quartz crystal can always go for a good cleaning. You want to keep them as fresh as possible. They are the ultimate magnet, drawing in the negative, deflecting positive, good happy energy. You always want to keep these clean, but you also want to make sure that you don't have one with too many cracks and you're overwashing it, because that can deteriorate it over time. Well, this one's just happy right here. I just did this one and I don't want to ruin the metal. I'm not quite sure how that smaller stone is secured in there, because I've had it my entire life. So I just don't mess with that one too much, but it likes it here with the seashells, so I leave it be. Now this stone is actually man-made, you can tell, but I think it's important to study both natural developing stones as well as man-made ones. And I think even an unnatural sort of stone deserves a cleaning too, And if you do speak with your stones, you will be able to tell when they're tired of a place, when they need to leave. Well, so this is the most withdrawn room in the house. It's furthest back. It is a bathroom, and it used to be a terrible shade of yellow. So I like to keep the stones in here to keep it lively, but at the same time, they probably don't want to be in here their whole lives collecting dust. Now, if I simply feel they need a different perspective, I'll go to a room with a lot of windows and lay them out for a day or two. Let all the negative energy off of them, anything they've collected, and just open them up to a brighter and bigger space. But today, now that you've decided which stones you want cleansed, you're going to want to make sure that the sink that you're using to clean them, if you are in fact using a sink, it needs to be clean. No dish gunk or soap scum on the bottom of your sink. And if you have a smaller stone, definitely use a stopper. You never want to lose your stones down the drain. None of these are small enough to go down the drain, so I don't concern myself with it too much. If you are worried about your stones chipping from being dropped in the sink, you could put a small hand towel down there later that you can wring out and throw in the washing machine when you're done, just so that if they do fall, they won't hit a hard surface. Now I'm going to turn the water on to mostly hot enough to clean the germs, the dust, the stagnation off the stones, but not so hot as to hurt my hands, obviously. Now, I'm not sure if most people know that to fully rinse soap, germs off of a surface, it takes at least 20 seconds on an area, and you have to be sure you're doing both sides. So I'll obviously do a bit of moving around as I get the stones entirely wet until both the stones and my hands feel cleansed of energy. With the normal grime and salt that your hands have on them, you can tell when the stones are cleansed by sensing that your hands also feel cleansed. I will keep the stones underwater for at least 20 seconds to remove them of any grime and germs and, like I said, stagnation. And then I'm going to immediately switch it to cold. You don't want the stones to take in too much heat, because heat can change a stone before cold ever will. Cold will keep it tight within itself. So let's wait for this water to get warm. This is the perfect time to contemplate what your stones have done for you, what they represent, and how they've helped you. You want to consider them as individual beings. But the colors and the patterns will stimulate your brain in different ways, guaranteed. And, well, until the day you lose one, there's always something that's there for you, and you have to be appreciative of that. So now I can feel them getting very warm, so I can actually feel them making my hands hot. So that's when they've taken in too much hot energy, and you want to get rid of that right away. Oh, a little side note here, sometimes I also like to get my wrists wet as well, just to keep my energy off the stones and the stones' old energy, off of me. It's a way to create that boundary. And a little side note about what I said before, a stone will always be there to serve its purpose for you. And if you do lose it, don't be sad. There are plenty to go around, and it loved being with you. Sometimes it just finds somewhere else to be, or someone finds it who really needed it. I've had stones taken from me, and I wonder if maybe those stones aren't actually helping that person. I mean, I hate to think that it was just pawned off to someone else, but no matter what, stones are beautiful, and they have a spirit to them that will call the right person to them. So even if the person who stole my crystals sold them to someone else, they were bought by someone who cared. But if that person was in such a bad way in their life that they needed something, they reached out and took something beautiful because they were drawn to it. Hopefully that somehow opens their eyes up to a more beautiful world, and maybe that stone is also going to be a permanent reminder that they took off with my stones. But I do miss them, and it does suck, but you make new friends. And I know they're still out there somewhere doing good in the world, so it's always okay to let go of something that's been lost. It's just a life lesson, Now, next you're going to want to take a bowl. I prefer one that's translucent, so sunlight can shine through all areas, because sometimes the sun doesn't hit directly into the bowl, and you'll get a shadow in there, and some of your stones aren't getting the full benefits of sunlight. Some people have a very meticulous procedure for this, but I feel that just lowering the water from to where there's no air bubbles in it and it's a much calmer stream, I like to do that just to steady the water that I'm putting in there. I'll fill up the bowl first before putting the stones in. You want to fill the bowl with your intentions, love, positivity, all that good stuff. Now, because I know that the stones that I'm using are okay to be in salt, they're not going to be destroyed by the salt, I will do the slightest amount. Now, you're not supposed to just cover your bowl in salt. Nothing can live in that much salt. Think of the Great Salt Pan or the Dead Sea, things like that. You'd never want to oversalt your rocks. So what I do is the slightest. And see that? That's about, and I'll put it in a spiral in my hands like this and let each grain touch my finger. And it should be only about like 20 to 30 crystals. Oh, can you see that? I don't know. Yes. So I'll just, not every piece has to fall in. This is literally just a purifying agent. So I'll put the salt in and add the smallest amount of water. Just stir it up. This is the first of these videos I've ever done, by the way, talking about Wicca and witchcraft. But I rather enjoy it. I'm constantly responding to people's questions on these pages, and I do see some far-fetched advice that just seems so outlandish, even I can't grasp it, but I do believe that there are methodical ways to practice Wicca that make sense. And I guess everybody is different, but I just had to show my method instead of type it out because it probably wouldn't make sense if you just read it. Now, I like to fill them up to the point where it's about to spill over. As you can see, this bowl is brimming. Now what I'll do is I'll tilt it forward and let the water fall out the entire bowl so that the outside of the bowl has been covered in that subtle salt water as well. Now, welcome to my front porch. I like to put my stones outside on the front step. Ooh, this big flagstone here. Stones on stones. Nothing better than that. Unfortunately, today is actually quite cloudy, but on a nice sunny day, I will set the bowl out for as long as I feel they need it. Usually I'll just go out and do some yard work for a while they sit and chill and watch me. I will play with the water. Talk to your stones. Get used to their presence and what they provide as an individual stone. Make sure they're happy. Make sure they're somewhere beautiful. I'd say a rock garden is pretty beautiful. Now, as I've said before, some stones can't be left in daylight, or at least not for long periods of time. So in that case, I'm sure some of you have heard of moon blessing, or using moonlight to bless your stones, in which case you do pretty much the same thing essentially, but you would leave your stones out overnight, hopefully in a place where no one's going to come up and step on them. And do this at a full moon, when the moon is at its strongest. Now, I'm not as into moonlight stuff, but I know that there are certain elements you can add to your water that would complement the moon. For example, you could put a sprig of lavender in there because it's a nighttime thing, a more calming energy. And just make sure whatever you put in your water, it's not going to damage your stones or deteriorate them in any way. And if you are going to put your stones in water, you need to make sure that it is a stone that is not going to deteriorate in water. So these guys actually did all of this only 2 days ago because I cleaned my bathroom and they were screaming for attention. So I think they actually don't know what's going on, and there's no sunlight, so I sense misery. I like to dump out some of the water right where they rested to further purify any sort of escaped energy. When I take them back inside, I mostly just clean them off with whatever clean towel I can find and send them on their way back to wherever I feel they are needed most. Now keep in mind, your stones can get tired. They can become stagnant. They can absorb too much negativity. They can physically get dirty or broken. And obviously when a stone becomes stagnant, it just means its value is going to decrease for you. You'll have had it on you for so long, sometimes you forget what its purpose is. I carried this one with me for 4 years, and one day I put it in my pocket and I almost heard a voice of, "Ugh, work again. I hate going with you to work." And I took it out of my pocket that day, and I took this one, which is Merlinite, and is actually meant for recharging spiritual energy. And it was a different day. I had a bit of a different mindset, I guess. And when I came back and I saw my tiger's eye was at home, resting, I felt like I had done it some good, gave it a breather. And the power in it was feeling kind of stagnant for a while, and that kind of revived it, just setting it aside and letting it be on its own. Also, if there's a slight opening in your stone, There are tiny crystals inside there, and it is an open area, so I have to be very careful with it. In fact, it has clearly turned a bit yellow over the years, and that is fully my fault. But I never put those towards the bottom. I keep them open towards the air, like towards open space. That way they can draw any negative energy in, almost like a little entry tunnel. So that's my tutorial on how to clean your stones and how to treat your stones with respect and to get rid of any negative energy they may have within them. I think I'll do a couple more of these, I guess. If you guys have questions, I know about the honest truth about Ouija boards, cleaning your house without using annoying things like incense. You do not have to smudge your house, by the way. I could do a whole series of these, honestly, you guys. If you guys are interested in this video, just let me know either on my Facebook page, if you've seen this on a Wiccan group on Facebook, or if you see this on YouTube, just give me a comment, ask whatever you want. I don't care. I'll answer anything, and I will do so honestly and as openly as I possibly can. I love to give examples and make understanding Wicca much easier for everybody. I am here for all of you. Have a good day, everyone.